Hey guys, Eric Knight here. Today is December 19th, 2012. I wanted to touch again on the issue of gun control. We're still seeing a heck of a lot of information regarding this shooting that happened last Friday in Sandy Hook Elementary School out in Connecticut. And there's also been some pretty interesting links that have been revealed here in just the last few days that I found somewhat fascinating. Again, I don't know if it's just a huge coincidence or if there are some dots to be connected in this whole issue. There's Lanza's father is a GE executive, or a very high-ranking executive that was set to testify in a LIBOR banking scandal. One of the biggest financial scandals and cover-ups of our time is what I've been hearing. And there's an interesting link with him and James Holmes' father, who also was set to testify on the same scandal, which neither of these people will be testifying. Pretty interesting information, and just a link between the two, having been probably two of the biggest mass shootings that we have seen in a very long time, just happening this last year. I don't really see this as being any different than, even like I touched on the other day, this whole Benghazi cover-up. We have General Petraeus, who had just come out with a sex scandal right after Barack Obama's re-election. He can no longer testify. And now, just this last week, Hillary Clinton suffered a concussion. She will no longer be able to testify. Two of the people that I think need to be testifying in this no longer testifying. I find that interesting. And you have to ask yourself the question, are all these things just a huge coincidence, or is there more to the story? Do some of these dots need to be connected? So on the issue of gun control, again, we're just seeing or getting bombarded on a daily basis with news over this horrible tragedy. I found it interesting that there was also some other shootings. I think there was one in San Antonio that a police officer had put an end to that was armed, as well as there was a mall shooting that was taking place out in Oregon, and an armed citizen had drawn his gun and pointed it at this individual, who proceeded to kill himself and prevented a lot of death that way. Now, what bothers me is these weren't at the same scale as what happened in Connecticut. However, I'm not seeing a whole lot of coverage in the news over these shootings that were prevented by ordinary citizens and police officers. I find that interesting, very bothersome at the same time, because it's not tying in with the narrative of what I believe the mainstream media wants us to go along with. Now, I would advise people to go and look at the FBI's website. I was kind of browsing through there the other day just to kind of see, what are crime rates like? Are we on the up and up? Have things been getting progressively worse over the last years, or has crime gone down more significantly as gun ownership and concealed carry has increased? And I think you'll find the answer is pretty interesting. I think since 1991, crime rates have dropped significantly. And then they instituted this federal assault weapons gun ban from 1994 until 2004. Rates continued to plummet. Now, after that gun ban was relieved and we no longer had it, crime rates have still continued to drop. So again, it kind of gives credence to that idea I put out the other day. Is it a fact that crime is going up in the country and we're having more and more of these shootings? Or is it that we're getting way too much publicity and we're giving these, we're turning something into something it's not? And I believe the latter is the answer. I think they're playing us on our fears again to step in and take more liberties away from the people. Now, there's been some interesting arguments that I want to touch on, because I see it every time I've debated somebody over the issue of gun control, especially those people on the left. They always say that 1776 was a different time. They're still fighting with muskets. Our founders didn't, know the technology that we as citizens or capable of in times like these. Now, I can't imagine that our founding fathers didn't think that things would progress in the future and we would have new technologies and become more advanced as a society. I think they were pretty smart people. Now, the argument that I see with that is a lot of these people say that there's no logical reasons why the public should be able to own the same type weapons that our military does, and it just doesn't make any sense. Now, I thought about this for a while, and I can see their argument for what it is, and you can give maybe some credibility to it. I myself, again, I don't personally own any type of assault weapons, and I have no desire to ever own an assault weapon. But the way I do see it is there are going to be some changes coming here in the near future. My prediction is we're going to renew this assault weapons ban probably first. I think there's still going to be a lot of mass shootings coming down the pipeline in the future, and I think things will progress from there. They'll limit and restrict things more and more and more if it doesn't happen here just in the next few weeks by Congress or through the power of executive order. I see an executive order probably, but we'll just have to wait and see what happens. Now, my main argument with assault weapons and why the citizens should be able to own them, or especially semi-automatic or automatic weapons, is pretty simple. The way I see it, if we were to ban semi-automatic weapons, handguns, automatic weapons, assault rifles, etc., let's say we get rid of them, and everybody's just left with a single shooter type weapon, a gun that can fire one shot. It pretty much brings the citizens back to 1776. It's no different than fighting with a musket. And the whole purpose of the Second Amendment is to defend the citizens against government gone out of control. Now, if we restrict these guns to a point of not completely eliminating them, but the citizens being armed with guns that are nowhere near the same capability of the military, let's say the government does try to impose martial law on us or a police state, and does go out of control. Well, the citizens can form their own militias or whatever they need to do. However, it's a suicide mission from that point. It's not a fair fight. It's 1776 fighting a war against 2012 and 2013 military technology. There's no chance that the citizens could ever defend themselves against the military. So that's the way I look at it. Maybe that sounds crazy, but I still think if we don't have semi-automatic weapons or even these assault weapons, again, I don't think the law-abiding citizens of this country are buying these because they want to go out and kill a bunch of people. That's not the fact. A lot of people use them for recreation, hunting, whatever. But I believe it's still the right to do so. I think if you really understand why we have the Second Amendment, it becomes a pretty slippery slope when you start to take these away. Because, again, we can ban the assault weapons. It's not going to put an end to the violence, period. And I really wish people would be open to that. I know that it's a very emotional time. It was an absolutely horrible tragedy that we just faced here. A lot of innocent children died, which I think is absolutely horrible. But again, it leads people to overlook the issue. It, again, plays people on their fears. And when that happens, no different than other events in our history, it's very easy to step in and give up our liberties. So there has been people already turning over their guns. I don't know. I think they get like a Walmart gift card now or something if they turn their weapons in. Yet, record numbers of people are now buying more guns. I think one positive to this is a lot of people are waking up to the reality that we may be facing here in the near future. And I think that's a pretty scary reality. Whether you look at the loss of liberties or the economic Armageddon that we face here in the near future, I hope I'm wrong, but just looking at this from a common sense standpoint, there's some really bad stuff coming down the pipeline. So that's my take on this. I would go check out the FBI's website. Look at the facts. on guns. Look at the facts on crime statistics. Then make a judgment for yourself. Also, go check out the links between James Holmes and this Lanza and their fathers and this banking scandal. I find it very interesting. Maybe try to connect the dots. I'm not saying this was orchestrated by any means, but I think, man, it just really seems to me like we've been having a lot of coincidences lately, and you got to ask yourself, at what point is this all by mere coincidence, or could it be potentially by design? So obviously this tragedy was a tipping point to really take some aggressive action moving forward by whatever means necessary. So we'll leave it at that today. Please feel free to post your comments. Thank you for tuning in. This is The Night Show. We'll have much more to talk about later on tomorrow.